So, welcome back to the channel. I'm Mercy, and I am the host of this podcast, The Silent Backbone. Silent Backbone was a podcast that I started based on feedback from somebody who read my book, and then another person and another person who thought maybe conversations between assistants would be something of interest because I really believe in storytelling. I believe storytelling can be a good way of us healing and learning different things. Now, so far, I have mostly interviewed people who are in the executive PE network in Geneva. So most of my first clients, my first people were mostly people from there, and that's because that's my network. Whenever you're trying something new, you start something new, um, and we make sure that your people are supporting you, right? So I was talking to my people mostly, and then as I said, I was going to expand my view, and I'm still talking to assistants, but we are not only assistants in Geneva, we are assistants all over the world. And so I saw this really awesome article, which of course I am going to, not made personal, I'm going to put the link on the bio. And this article was about the title of executive assistant. Should the title be changed? Should the title not be changed? What's in a name? Well, we don't know. Anyway, so does the title bring differences? Is it something that we should be thinking about? Are we over preoccupied about it? What exactly is the conversation? Now, I expected the comment section on LinkedIn to be a little bit more united on this, but it was respectfully not united. There, I like how polite people are on LinkedIn. You can tell that this is the kind of person who would slap me in the corridor, but then she's very polite on LinkedIn. And there was quite a lot of conversation about that. And I honestly still don't know where I stand on this, even after having the conversation, which you're going to watch now. But what I think is, my name is Mercy, and you can decide to look at me and respect me as Mercy, or I can make you see me as Mercy and decide to respect me as Mercy. You get what I mean? I don't have to be Jane because you respect Jane. But then that is me. That is just how I am. But then again, maybe if I was Jane, I would be getting a lot more respect than I'm getting as Mercy. You get? So, should a name that has already been tried and tested, something that sounds important, be what is used? Because the word assistant, yes, we are assisting, but we are not only assisting now. Now we are being given projects to run, we are being given things that we actually are responsible for. And employers can get away with paying you less when you're assisting, and yet you're also implementing something. So let's listen to what Rebecca had to say about this topic. Rebecca is from Ghana, so I am going. Oh, I am. Yeah, you see, motherland. So I'm not only talking to European assistants, so you cannot say that these are first world problems. You cannot say these are third world problems. You cannot. These are problems in the offices where assistants work. So you can't be saying that I can't look at this and I can't look at that. No, 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 no. These are problems everywhere. And we are talking. So finally, we're having this session. It's been a journey. So can you tell us quickly about yourself and your journey to becoming an assistant, whether it's an executive assistant or whatever assistant you are? Tell us about that.
All right. Thank you very much, Mercy, for having me. Yes, indeed, it's been a journey trying to have this recording done. But my journey of becoming, I will use the word administrative professional, because when I look back at my work history, I've really had different titles. But if you consider the function of the job, the role, it's more like an executive assistant. Okay, so I would say that I didn't plan to find myself in the administrative professional industry. At a point, I wanted to, but somebody talked me out of it. And so I started my career in the aviation industry as a customer support agent. I was basically checking in passengers flying on Lufthansa airline at the airport. So if you've been to the airport before, those who do the printing of the boarding passes and tagging of bags, yes, that's how I started my career. Then I moved into the banking industry. And in the banking industry, I had a role called the retail support staff. And I was basically supporting a sales manager, manage a team of salespeople. So I'll say that was actually my first assistant role, if I should put it that way. But at that time, I actually didn't know what the role was about. But basically, if I look back, I think I was performing the role of an executive assistant. So from the banking industry, I then moved into the non-profits. It was in the non-profits now I played the role of a program assistant where I was supporting a regional director who was managing projects in 3 different countries. So that is when I had my real executive assistant position. And as I said, even at that time, I didn't even know what kind of profession that I was in. And later I moved into a different nonprofit. And there is when I started reflecting on my career journey and then realized that, oh, indeed, I've been playing the support role for a while. And then I decided to try to ask myself questions. So what kind of profession do I fall in? And then I came to the realization that indeed this is part of the administrative profession. So it's a profession on its own, but it's just that it has diverse titles. So yeah, I would say that is how my journey became. And now I work as a program assistant with a diplomatic mission, if I should put it that way. And I also serve as the president of the Network of Administrative Professionals of Ghana.
That is
And
awesome.
yes,
That is quite a journey, and it
it is.
actually explains why you wrote your article. So, viewers,
Mm-hmm.
I contacted her when I saw an article that Rebecca had written. I saw it on LinkedIn, and the comments on it were quite diverse. There were people who are agreeing with it, and there were people who are not agreeing with it. And the article was about the title of executive assistant. So, as you hear from her journey, she's done everything but be called the executive assistant. So, she is, for me, on the other hand, it's been quite straightforward. I started
Yeah.
as an administrative assistant, then I went to a team assistant, and then
Mm-hmm.
I was called executive assistant, and I've been executive assistant since then. So, I think not everybody, and I cannot think of, I know people also who they're doing the same thing as me, but their companies
Mm-hmm.
call them different things.
Yeah.
So, what inspired you to write that article? What is the background behind the article?
Okay. So I'll say I wrote the article out of observation and the experience, actually. I've been in the industry for, I think it's more than 15 years now. And I think I've seen a lot. And what I realized was that the role of an executive assistant has really evolved. It has expanded. The the function, the tasks involved, and even the requirements for the role has changed. Okay, first, in my country, for instance, first, if you hold a senior high school certificate, you can become an executive assistant. But now I see that in the job advert, especially when they are looking for a high caliber executive assistant to support a high level executive, for instance, the CEO of a big company, you even require a master's degree to be able to fill in that role. And so I said, so how come the role seems to have changed? It has evolved because we are no longer just managing logistics and scheduling. We are now managing projects. We are now influencing decisions, but it looks like the title is not reflecting the transformation that the role has gone through. And so that's where the inspiration came from. I just wanted to change that narrative that makes the role seem like it's just a support role, to let people know that the role has evolved. It's no longer a support role per se, but it has now become a strategic role, a business role that needs to be recognized as such. And so that's where the inspiration came from.
So I did write a book about the mental health of executive assistants. And when I was telling someone that I'm writing a book about the mental health of executive assistants, she told me, but why would executive assistants be having burnouts? And I said, because they're doing a lot of hard work. And she said,
Yeah,
yeah, but they're supporting. It's the person they're supporting who should be having. And I said, do you realize that is exactly what companies think, which is the reason why assistants are burning out? Because everybody is there to support the executives, but nobody looks at the behind the executive, and who
exactly.
is this person behind the executive.
Yeah,
And our role has evolved, but in
yeah.
some places even the salaries have not evolved. They
No,
still pay them really badly, and in some
exactly.
places the respect has not evolved.
Yeah.
And so maybe changing the title, do you think changing the title would make a difference? Or is it more, because this was the debate that I kind of saw in the comment section, is it more we should change people's attitudes towards the title and keep the title? Or should we change the title to something that people feel like they want to respect? I don't think
Okay.
there's a right or wrong answer for this, but what was your
Exactly.
conclusion for it?
Exactly. And I also would say it depends on the, yes, just as you said, there's no right or wrong answer. We can begin to change people's perception about the role, educate people on how the role has evolved. But I also think that changing the title will help accelerate, the changing of people's perception. I think now more administrative professionals, executive assistants for that matter, have become, vocal. We are advocating, trying to educate people to change their perception about the role internally and even externally. But it's taking a slow pace, okay? And so I believe if we change the title, it will be given the recognition that it deserves. For
Mhm.
instance, when in one of my previous roles, my title was executive officer. That was my title. And because I had that title, it commanded some level of respect, but I was actually playing the role of an executive assistant. And then
Mm,
another thing too is that the change in title will come with a change in salary. People will be paid better because
mm,
of the title. Because I've been in a situation where my salary could not be increased because of the title that I held.
mm.
And what I was told was that unless the title is changed, I cannot be paid a certain amount because of the title I was having at then. So I believe that changing the title will accelerate, the change in perception, and then people will now recognize the strategic value that the role actually contributes to the organization.
What I find interesting is they tell you that they cannot change your salary because until they change your title, but then they don't mind adding you tasks and roles without
Right.
changing your titles.
Exactly.
So it's just
Exactly.
it's one of those things that the
Yeah.
corporate world is just trying to uh,
Yeah.
breakers. So when you started, you said that when you wanted to be an assistant at the beginning, somebody talked you out of it. Now, I come from Kenya, and I
Yes.
think when I was a child, I actually did want to be a secretary. And I remember it was one of those things that I knew that I cannot say it out loud because my parents would get a heart attack. So I kept it to myself, but deep down, I knew that that is what I wanted to do. I had my own reasons, which were quite silly at the moment when I think about it now, but I kind of felt like the secretary had so much power. Every time I saw secretaries, they were the ones commanding everything. So when you so I'm sure the attitude of thinking you want to go all the way to university to become an assistant is not something that most people would take well. So when you meet a younger person, who is, because I'm very into mentoring young people when they come into this career. If you meet a young person who wants to be an executive assistant now, because you have an association, I'm sure you're meeting a lot of them.
Yeah. Yes.
How do you advise them?
So I tell them that the role has changed. It's not what it used to be in the past. Okay.
Yes.
And it's not just a job. In fact, it's a behind the scene leadership role, sort of, So I tell them that if that indeed that is what they want to do, they should go into it not seeing themselves as just an assistant, but as somebody who is going to contribute to the success of the overall to the success of the organization. And for me, this role actually gives you the exposure of getting to know, understand the dynamics of leadership, understand how decisions are made, and this kind of exposure is not available to everyone.
Yeah.
People don't get access to this kind of exposure early in their careers.
Yeah.
But as an executive assistant, you are the forefront, you are behind your leader, you are supporting him in everything he does. So you see clearly what is going on in the organization, you get to understand things better. And I think you gain a lot of knowledge and skills by doing that. And it's easy for you to even take up a leadership role once it becomes available
Yeah.
to you, because of course you will gain the experience and then the exposure. So that's what I tell them, that it's not just a stepping stone. It can be your full-time career if you want it to be.
Yes. So you also wrote a book,
Yes.
because you're passionate about people evolving in their careers. So tell us a bit about your book.
Okay, so I wrote the Level Up Your Career: Simple Actionable Steps, Strategies and Tips to a Fulfilling Career. That's the title of the book. Because of the work I do, mentoring and coaching administrative professionals, I realized at a point that most professionals feel stuck.
Yeah.
Not because they lack ability, but because they lack clarity, confidence, and strategy. And so I just decided to make something or write a book that will be very practical and can serve as a roadmap to everybody who wants to grow in their careers. And so the book actually helps professionals to understand how they can position themselves, how they can communicate their value, and take intentional steps that can lead to their career growth. And this could be for you to get promotion, to land a higher role, or to even find more fulfillment in what you are currently doing.
Okay. And this is my second to last question.
Yes.
You have an association. I'm a member of an association.
Okay.
What do you think is the importance of these associations for assistants and people like that? What have you personally gained from it, and why did you start one?
Okay. I think you stand to learn a lot when you join associations like that. The exposure alone, you get to meet other assistants, you get to meet your peers in the industry. And for us at the Network of Administrative Professionals of Ghana, our members come from different industries, although they are all playing, I don't want to use the word support, but strategic roles in
Yes.
their various industries. And you get to know a lot. In fact, at a point in my career, it felt so lonely, as an executive assistant. It felt so lonely. There were challenges that I was facing that I had nobody to speak to. And I wasn't even getting the answers that I needed from people I could speak to because they didn't understand my role. But if you join an association where everybody you get to understand what you go through on daily basis,
Yeah.
then it also gives you that confidence, because then now you realize, oh, I'm not the only one going through this kind of challenge. It looks like it comes with the rule. And then you are offered, advice, you are offered anything that you need that can support you in the room. So for me, the connections alone, getting to know other people, getting to learn from each other is what makes an association a great asset to any professional.
Okay, so is there anything you would like to say that I have not given you a chance to say?
I think, what can I say? I'll say that we as executive assistants, we as administrative professionals find ourselves in a very good place. Okay, it doesn't matter what people think, what people say about the role, but we can only continue to educate people to change their profession. But I think we should own our space. We should own our city. We should communicate our value. We should demonstrate it, and also take ownership of our careers, because sometimes we sit down and expect that it's our organization, it's our boss who is responsible to decide on the trainings we need to undertake, the promotion that we deserve, and all that. We need to learn how to advocate for ourselves.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's true. All right. Thank you so much. And it was really awesome talking to you today.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, okay. We did it.